Good morning. So, the last couple of talks that I did were on faith, which is the first of the five spiritual faculties, which is the series that I'm talking about at the moment. So, the second one, the second of the five spiritual faculties, is wisdom. So, that's a bit of a change from faith, perhaps, in some ways. So, faith, we can sometimes think of it as our more emotional response to Buddhism, to what we find, even though it is based, on experience and finding out about the Dharma and also intuition. But something happens within us that we start loving, turning our heart towards what we know, what we suspect perhaps really matters. So now I'm going to talk about wisdom and what that means. And what's interesting is sometimes people say, well, wisdom or the truth is a very personal thing. My truth isn't the same as your truth, for example. So I'm going to be a bit challenging to that and say, there is truth. There is truth. So when I talk about wisdom, hopefully that will show why I'm claiming that. So what is wisdom? Well, it's reality. From a Buddhist perspective, it is reality. And it's seeing things as they really are, as they truly are, rather than as they appear. So that suggests that appearance is not the same as reality. So we need to look at that a bit more deeply. So we know that all worldly things are conditioned. And it's just worth pondering that one for a moment. Are they really? Well, everything arises as a result of various conditions that come together at a particular point in time. And when those conditions change, what has been put together will fall apart. So that applies to absolutely everything. Obviously, some things take a long time to fall apart, such as, mountains. But actually, they all do. The world is changing all the time, and we ourselves are changing pretty quickly. So, because everything in the phenomenal world is conditioned and changes, this is why everything is basically marked by those three characteristics of existence: unsatisfactoriness or even suffering, impermanence, and nothing has an unchanging essence. So, if we take an example of that, let's look at, for example, the concept of a car. We see a car, we know it's a car, we have a word for car. But where is car? Where actually within those put together objects is the car? So are the wheels car? If we saw four wheels, is that car? If we saw an engine, would we identify that as car? A windscreen wiper, a seat? No, none of that can be described as car. It's only when those conditions come together in a particular way that we then put together that idea as the concept of car. And that applies to everything. And that's very challenging in terms of seeing ourself. So what is Vajragupta? It's just a name, and anybody else could have that name. Is Vajragupta is what you identify as me, my nose, my eyes, my body, what I say, what I do. So all these things, all these parts come together, and there I am imagining, that I'm something fairly substantial, fairly fixed, that perhaps even there's some essence of me. So when we think of ourselves as an essence, it's often because, we see ourselves often in two ways, sometimes more one than the other. So we might see ourselves as existing and perhaps even existing beyond time. I mean, beyond this life, the time of this life. So that is an eternalistic view, that actually we hope, and there probably is quite a hope in us, that something is going to persist over time, persist beyond this life. But also there's a nihilistic view that thinks that this is it, dust to dust, ashes to ashes, and that when we die, there's nothing left of that essence. What Buddhism says is that there is an awareness that continues, awareness that goes way beyond this life, and that claims that we have very, very many other lives. And yeah, I'm not going to say any more about that. But anyway, it's very useful to think about how we too are conditioned. So wisdom, as we know, as probably most of us know, is described as being of three kinds. So first of all, there's the wisdom of hearing. And that doesn't just mean using our ears, but actually using the whole of ourselves to really hear what it is that the Buddha said, what it is that he's presenting us with, what we hear of the Dharma. Do we really listen? Do we really have an open mind when we hear? Or, what's more usual, is that we have got very fixed ideas and views, and that's what we bring to our hearing without realizing it. So all the time when we're hearing, we are thinking, do I agree with that? Maybe no, I don't. And if I don't agree with it, something shuts down in us. We don't then have a very open mind. That's not easy to hear with a completely open, spacious awareness that actually considers what we're hearing. So we think things through for ourselves. So this is the second level of wisdom. So this is like reflecting for ourselves, thinking things through, making it our own. Not being influenced just by what's being said, but actually thinking things through and trying things out in our experience as well. So making things our own. Now that sounds very straightforward, but actually one thing that we have to realize about the way that we've been conditioned is that we very strongly stick to our own truth. We've got our understanding from all the things we've been through. But almost everything that we speak and think for ourselves actually isn't really for ourselves. It's all secondhand because we're conditioned. We've got ideas that we've taken from our family, from our parents, from our schooling, from our culture, from our social interactions, and all that has, if you like, imprinted itself, conditioned us to think in certain ways. So it's quite good to contemplate actually where all these ideas and views have come from. Experiences have influenced us in how we think. So learning to think for ourselves involves really thinking things through. So the third level of wisdom, of course, is meditating. And that doesn't just mean sitting on our cushions, obviously. It'd be lovely and easy if it were. But actually being interested in awareness itself, in what's behind all the views and the thoughts, all the plans and so on. What's behind it all? Well, Buddhism claims there is an awareness, an untainted awareness that is beyond, if you like, all those things that we think, that is spacious and open and unconditioned. That's our ultimate nature, very hard to understand. So this is just a few points about wisdom And I'll see you again soon. So I'll end it there. Bye for now.